up mga ka-idols? It's your teacher Aya, Second of Gentry, repping from Dasma. Online studies the name of the game, and if you subscribe to our lesson, I promise to keep you entertained.
Meanwhile,
We are now down to module number 3 in Disciplines and Ideas in the Social Sciences. It will be the continuation of the branches, namely Sociology, Political Science, Demography, Linguistics, and Psychology.
2 hours later.
First one, we have linguistics. So we all know that linguistics, it came from the Latin word lingua, which means language. So definitely, linguistics deals with grammar, and language plays an important role in society. As I already said, that it is also a component in anthropology for studying the language of the people or the men. And then, it was used in Greeks for Greek people in public speaking, no, to elect in public position. So syempre meron silang debate dyan. So language is one criteria, no, for public speaking in the front of many people. And then in linguistics, we have different components. No, let's first phonetics. So when we say phonetics, this is the study of the speech sounds. So mga salita patungkol sa mga tunog kung paano ang pronunciation. Phonology naman, ito naman yung sa mga speech sound patterns. And then we have morphology and pragmatics. So morphology first, how words are categorized or formed, mga salitang ugat, kung paano nabubuo ang isang salita, panlapi. And pragmatics, this is the language context, paano ginagamit ang isang lengguwahe by means of interpretation, paano ito nai-interpret. And then yun na nga, phonology sa sound patterns. And syntax, it is how words are combined to form a sentence. So this is a sentence making, no? Kung paano kino-combine ang mga words to make a sentence. And last one, we have semantics. This is meaning making, pagpapakahulugan sa mga salita. So hindi ko i-discuss masyado dahil ito ay sa inyong English language, but it is also a component or branch of social sciences.
Much later.
Second is political science. So political science came from the Greek word politeio, which means a person who participates in the polis. So during the Greece or Greek times, no, there were community, pagkakaroon ng pagkukumpulan ng mga tao in the polis or the agora, in the city market. And then this was used for decision making in a marketplace or agora, where law passed and disseminated to the community. So that's the way on how they are disseminating information to the common good. And then political science is also concerned with the study of social arrangement to maintain peace and order within a society. Political science deals with state, politics, power, law, ideology, and the government. So politics is more on the decision making on how to organize a society or a state. And politics, this is the process of using power in the government. While power, this is the means for the government to rule the people. So ang politics, this is the process, this is the knowledge, no? This is the ideology to have an application for the government in political strategy. Samantalang ang power kasi, ito yung this is the responsibility, or this is the tool, no, for the ruler para magampanan niya ang kanyang tungkulin at magkaroon siya ng kapangyarihan na ma-impose ang kanyang mga law. So kailangan niya ng kapangyarihan, kailangan ng posisyon sa gobyerno bago niya maisabatas o maisagaw ang kanyang mga tungkulin para sa mga tao. And government, this is the authority that provides the system of rule over its territory and the people. So malalaman natin ngayon ang brief history of political science. So nandyan sina Plato, Aristotle, at si Thomas Hobbes. So they are the proponent in the field of political science. So Aristotle is known as the father of ancient political science. Diba? Siya yung nagsulat siya ng isang libro which is entitled Politics, na patungkol sa justice, slavery, and about people's participation in the ancient Greece. So patungkol to sa pagkakaroon ng isang government or ng isang state in Athens. And then we have also Niccolo Machiavelli, is known as the father of modern political science. So kay Machiavelli naman, sa kanya nagsimula yung Machiavellian politics. So sila yung mga tao na under ng political
And then,
science. Ipapanood ako sa inyong video patungkol kay John Locke. Isa rin siyang political analyst or political philosopher. So,
One of the
let's watch
first
the
people to
video.
start building the foundations for the free societies we live in today was John Locke. Locke was born in 1632 in Rington, a village in England. His ideas laid the foundation for classical liberalism, which would become increasingly prevalent in Western countries. From 1667 through the early 1680s, Locke acted as a physician and intellectual aide to the Earl of Shaftesbury. Around 1679 to 1680, Locke drafted one of his most influential works, the Two Treatises of Government. Locke's two treatises argued for radical limits on the authority of the state, limiting the function of government to the narrow protection of people's rights to life, liberty, and estate. Locke fled to Holland in 1683 due to his association with Shaftesbury and his counterparts and their continued opposition to Charles II. While in Holland, he composed A Letter Concerning Toleration, which is one of the great landmark essays in defense of religious toleration. Locke returned to England after the Glorious Revolution of 1688, which installed the more liberal regime of William and Mary. In 1689, the Two Treatises was published. He also published his A Letter Concerning Toleration around this time. Locke remained concerned about persecution, so these works were published anonymously. Locke's insights into the nature of a just government and the nature of freedom established the foundation for a radically different political philosophy. His writings influenced many thinkers and scholars, including Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the Scottish Enlightenment thinkers, and the American revolutionaries. Classical liberalism, as it became known, became a revolutionary force in the Western world in the 18th and 19th centuries, and remains influential to this day. The idea that all people are entitled to equal rights is common, widespread, and so permeates modern culture in Western countries that it's hard to imagine people thinking differently. However, in the time of John Locke, it was generally believed that there was a natural hierarchy. Some people were naturally superior to others. Some people were born to rule and others to serve. This was considered the natural order. The average person was considered to have only those rights that existing political and religious authorities chose to grant to them, and only so long as they chose to grant them these rights. In stark contrast to the dominant view of the time, Locke argued that all people were born with the same moral status. Therefore, no one is naturally born to be a ruler or servant. In other words, no one is born with a natural claim to authority over others. Locke thought that since we were each beings who pursue self-preservation and happiness, we each equally have the same right to pursue self-preservation and happiness. We each are born to a right to do as we see fit with our lives, liberty, and property. Let's use an example to clarify John Locke's radical idea. Gary was born into a family of poor farmers, whose lands were within the territory of King Louis. Despite Gary and Louis being very different people from very different backgrounds, Locke argued both were born with the same rights. Gary may be poor, but he is still a human being, just like Louis, and therefore entitled to the same set of rights. Locke's ideas were revolutionary because it meant the rights, possessed only by monarchs, kings, and elites of the time, were actually the birthright of every human being. Locke's ideas challenged the status quo of a natural hierarchy and laid the foundation for societies based on equal rights for all people. One of Locke's most important and enduring insights related to property. Locke argued that every person was born with certain basic natural rights, and that these natural rights enabled individuals to acquire further rights, including property rights. Locke argued that, first and foremost, every person has a property right over themselves. In other words, each person has a right of self-ownership, meaning others, such as a king, do not have control over the individual person. This view stood in stark contrast to the view that the king or queen owned everything, including the people, or that the rights of individuals were determined by the will of the sovereign. Locke argued that such sovereign authority over the individual was contrary to the law of nature. The bundle of rights that Locke envisioned every person possessing also included the right to one's labor. This means that individuals have a right to the fruits of their physical labor, as well as their ingenuity, creativity, and innovation. Locke also explained how we can come to have property rights in land or other natural resources, rights not based in political decree or favoritism. The key for Locke was what he called labor mixing, which occurs when a person uses their physical labor, ideas, imagination, and creativity to transform previously unused physical material. For example, Joe and Sarah arrive in the New World and find an unclaimed area of land. They begin a process of transforming the land to build a farm. According to Locke, this labor is how Joe and Sarah acquire rights over the land. Property rights over the products produced on the farm is an important addition because it means that Joe and Sarah have the right to decide how best to use their crop. They can consume it or trade it with people for other goods and services they might need. These insights about the importance of property rights in ensuring a free and prosperous society are as applicable now as they were when John Locke was writing them Locke's originally. Groundbreaking writing and thinking about equality of rights and the equal dignity of all people led him to consider the role of the monarchy, and in a broader sense, the role of the state. As a thought experiment, Locke asked us to imagine what it would be like if there were no kings or governments of any kind. Locke understood that it would be difficult and, to use his words, inconvenient to enforce our rights, or to protect ourselves, or to resolve disputes. Locke explained that people would realize that it's more convenient, effective, and fair to establish third-party, independent mechanisms to resolve conflicts. Let's suppose that Bob decides to trade his beer for a box of Adam's apples. However, after the exchange, Bob discovers almost all of the apples are rotten. Adam denies any wrongdoing and refuses to give Bob his beer back. A heated conflict like this could lead to violence, and sure enough, Adam assaults Bob and threatens further violence if he presses the issue further. These were Locke's inconveniences. But what if a neutral arbiter existed to help resolve the dispute? Bob decides to sue Adam and the two go to court. Bob and Adam tell their versions of events to a judge, who listens carefully and, after weighing the facts and the existing law, passes judgment on who has been wronged and what compensation they are owed. The conflict is resolved without physical violence based on a set of rules or laws. Locke argued the state emerged from this realization that creating a third-party, neutral arbiter could manage these inconveniences better than individuals on their own. Critically, though, Locke also explained that the justification for what he called just government was that it protected people's rights and ameliorated these inconveniences. In essence, the reasons for the existence of the state are the same reasons for limiting its size and power. According to Locke, a just government is one that seeks to protect people's rights.
Meanwhile,
Next branch is about sociology. So, sociology, it came from the Latin word socius, meaning friend or companion, and logi meaning study. So definitely sociology, this is the study of the society, on how the society is being structured and shape the society. So in sociology, ang pinag-aaralan dito is about race, class, gender, culture, religion, belief systems, tradition, government, and it also studies about the way individual and groups behavior. So it's all about the institutions and behaviors. So this is the study of the society. And then these are the proponent of sociology. We have Auguste Comte, Emile Durkheim, and Harriet Martineau. So Auguste Comte, he was the father of sociology. Is the proponent during the French Revolution. Siya ang nagpasimula or nag-coined ng term ng sociology. Emile Durkheim, matadaanan po natin siya sa ating mga theories. Siya po ang nagpasimula ng theory about suicide. And then Harriet Martineau, she was considered as the first female sociologist.
2 hours later.
Next is psychology. So psychology, from the Greek word psyche, meaning soul or spirit, and logy, study. So psychology is the study of human behavior, personality, and how these are affected by individuals' environment. And psychology also deals with how the human mind works in a consonance with the body to produce thoughts that lead to actions. So ang application ng psychology is about suicide and criminal behavior. So this is the study of human behavior. And then psychology, yun ang sinabi ko, dito yung pumapasok yung mental health, and which is being measured or observed. And then these are some examples, no, ano yung pinag-aaralan sa mental processes. Nandiyan ang dreams, perceptions, thoughts, cognitive activities, and memories. And then, psychology, pag lumalim tayo dito sa ating second semester, i-discuss ko sa inyo ang iba't ibang main point ng psychology, which are the conscious and the unconscious phenomena. And then, eto, kilalanin natin ang mga founding fathers of psychology. The father of modern psychology is Wilhelm Wundt. Father of American psychology is William James. And the father of psychoanalysis is Sigmund Freud.
Much
Next
later.
is demography. So, demography, it came from the Greek word demos. Demos meaning people, and graphos meaning charting or mapping. Demography, this is the study of human population. And demography deals with how people move from place to place. No, demography, pag-aaral ng populasyon, pumapasok dyan ang census, ang vital statistics. And then, in demography, pinag-aaralan po dito ang fertility rate, no, yung bilang ng mga births. And then, mortality, deaths, migration, paglipat sa iba't ibang lugar. And the population growth, ang paglaki ng populasyon. So, masasabi natin ang demography, gumagamit siya ng quantitative study kasi nga, involved po dito ang numbers. So, binibilang ang namatay, nabuhay, pinanganak, at ang nag-migrate sa ibang lugar. And then, ito yung mga tao na involved in demography. We have Thomas Malthus and Edmund Halley. So, Thomas Malthus, kung na-discuss ko ito sa economics, Thomas Malthus, siya yung karoon ng theory about the geometric progression of population and the needs of the people. No, hindi na sa patuloy na paglaki ng populasyon, bumabagal ang produksyon. Siyempre, malaki ang populasyon, hindi kayang sustentuhan or bigyan, no, ng resources ang mga tao kasi nga malaki ang populasyon at malaki ang bilang ng tao. So, this is a geometric progression. Kapag tumaas ang populasyon, mabagal ang produksyon, di ba? Kapag mababa ang populasyon, mataas ang produksyon. So, para siyang pagkakabaliktad niya, vice versa, no? Or meron silang counter-attack sa isa't isa. And Edmund Halley nagsulat ng libro patungkol sa demography, no? Kaya sila ang mga proponent ng demography or about the human population.
1 eternity later.
Thank you so much mga ka-idols, and I hope you learned something new from our discussion. See you in our next video tutorial.